Rory Calhoun was born Francis Timothy McCown on August 8, 1922, in Los Angeles, California, and his early life was far from glamorous. Growing up during the Great Depression, he faced hardship and instability that often led him into trouble. As a young man, he made serious mistakes and spent time in a reformatory, experiences that could have ended his future before it began. Instead, those years became the foundation of his personal transformation. Rory later spoke openly about his past, never pretending it had not happened. He believed those struggles gave him grit, humility, and emotional depth. After his release, he worked honest jobs as a mechanic, logger, and ranch hand until a chance encounter with actor Alan Ladd and Ladd's wife, Sue Carroll, changed his destiny. They saw potential in him, helped guide him into acting, and gave him the name Rory Calhoun, beginning a remarkable second chance at life. Heading to rising through the ranks of Western cinema, Rory Calhoun entered Hollywood in the 1940s and quickly found his place in Western and adventure films, where his tall frame, calm presence, and rugged looks made him a natural leading man. He appeared in memorable films such as The Red House, With a Song in My Heart, and River of No Return alongside stars like Marilyn Monroe and Robert Mitchum. Audiences trusted him on screen because he felt genuine, not manufactured. Unlike many actors who merely played cowboys, Rory truly lived that lifestyle. Skilled with horses and comfortable outdoors, his performances were marked by quiet strength rather than dramatic flair, which gave him a believable and reassuring quality. When he starred in the television series The Texan, viewers felt they were watching someone who understood the character's code of honor. Rory's success came not from loud ambition, but from authenticity and steady dedication to his craft. Heading 3, a life lived outside the spotlight. Behind the scenes, Rory Calhoun was known as independent, kind, and deeply loyal to his friends. He avoided the excesses of Hollywood whenever possible and preferred privacy over publicity. Though gossip columns often followed his romantic life, those who worked with him described him as professional and dependable. He carried himself with a mix of toughness and warmth that made people feel at ease. Directors respected his work ethic, and fans admired his approachable nature. Even as the popularity of Westerns faded in the late 1960s, Rory continued to reinvent himself, appearing in television shows and later in unexpected films such as Motel Hell. His willingness to try new genres showed his flexibility and sense of humor. He never clung to one image of himself but accepted change as part of growth. This balance between fame and personal independence shaped his long career and lasting reputation. Heading 4, love, marriage, and personal change. Rory Calhoun's personal life reflected the complexity of a man who lived fully and passionately. His first marriage to actress Lita Barron brought him family life and 3 daughters, whom he deeply loved. Their union lasted more than 20 years, but eventually collapsed under the pressures of fame and emotional distance. Lita later spoke honestly about the pain of broken trust, giving the public a rare glimpse into the struggles behind their glamorous image. Rory later married journalist Sue Rhodes, finding in her a calmer and more grounded relationship. Though they divorced once, they reunited and remarried years later, choosing companionship over drama. This second marriage marked a quieter chapter of his life, focused on reflection rather than ambition. Rory often expressed gratitude for the lessons love had taught him, acknowledging both his mistakes and the growth that came from them. His later years were shaped by maturity, forgiveness, and emotional understanding. Heading 5, a quiet rivalry with Randolph Scott. For decades, Hollywood insiders spoke of the connection between Rory Calhoun and Randolph Scott, 2 towering figures of the Western genre. Both embodied the image of the American cowboy, calm, strong, and honorable. Yet Rory rarely spoke publicly about Scott until late in life, when he finally shared his true feelings. He described Randolph Scott as a man of natural dignity who never needed to raise his voice to command respect. Rory admitted that when he was younger, he sometimes felt overshadowed by Scott's effortless authority on screen. There was competition between them, but it was never cruel or bitter. Instead, it was the quiet rivalry of two men trying to live up to the same ideal. Rory acknowledged that Scott set a standard others tried to reach. Their relationship reflected mutual respect shaped by shared experience rather than conflict. Heading 6. Respect, not resentment. In his reflections, Rory Calhoun made it clear that any sense of rivalry with Randolph Scott was rooted in admiration rather than jealousy. He explained that Scott's calm presence influenced the way other actors approached their roles. Randolph Scott never rushed scenes or demanded attention, yet he naturally drew focus. Rory once said that Scott taught him more through example than through words. He treated everyone on set with fairness, from producers to background actors, which left a lasting impression. Hollywood could be ruthless, but Scott remained steady and kind. Rory believed this was why audiences trusted him so deeply. There was no need for drama or competition when both men understood their place in the genre. Over time, Rory came to see Scott not as someone to measure himself against, but as a symbol of the values Western films were meant to represent: restraint, honor, and quiet courage. Heading 7. Lessons learned from a fellow cowboy. When asked if Randolph Scott ever gave him advice, Rory recalled a simple but powerful statement: never chase fame because it runs faster than any horse. Rory admitted this lesson stayed with him throughout his career. Whenever he tried too hard to impress or prove himself, he felt the cost emotionally. Scott's example showed him that true success came from knowing who you were and staying loyal to that identity. Rory also admired how Scott retired without scandal or spectacle, choosing peace over applause. To Rory, this was the most impressive part of Scott's life. He had the wisdom to step away when the time felt right. That choice shaped Rory's own view of aging in Hollywood. Rather than clinging to youth or fame, Rory accepted the natural end of certain chapters and took pride in the work he had already done. Heading 8. Regret and unspoken friendship. One of the most touching parts of Rory Calhoun's reflection was his quiet regret that he never expressed his admiration directly to Randolph Scott. He explained that in their era, men rarely spoke openly about respect or influence. Pride and tradition kept such feelings unspoken. Rory believed Scott likely sensed his regard, even if it was never said aloud. Looking back, Rory wished he had taken the time to tell him how much he meant to his career and personal growth. This honesty revealed a softer side of the rugged actor. It showed that beneath the cowboy image was a man capable of reflection and emotional awareness. Rory's words were not about rivalry, but about missed opportunities for connection. His story reminded listeners that admiration often goes unsaid, and that time can change how we view past relationships. Heading 9. Final years and enduring legacy. Rory Calhoun spent his final years away from the spotlight, living with dignity and humor despite declining health. He battled emphysema and diabetes, illnesses that slowly weakened him physically but never broke his spirit. Friends and family remembered him as warm, witty, and thoughtful until the end. He passed away in April 1999 at the age of 76, closing a chapter on a life that had traveled from troubled beginnings to Hollywood respect. His career stood as proof that reinvention is possible and that mistakes do not define a lifetime. Rory left behind a body of work that celebrated courage, simplicity, and human struggle. He was remembered not only as a Western hero, but as a man who changed his path and embraced growth. His reflections on Randolph Scott added depth to his legacy, showing humility and gratitude rather than ego. Heading 10. Two cowboys, one era of honor. Rory Calhoun's tribute to Randolph Scott revealed more than admiration. It revealed the values that defined an entire generation of Western stars. Both men represented strength without arrogance and dignity without noise. Their relationship symbolized a time when character mattered as much as fame. Rory's final words about Scott described him as a man who taught through presence, not speeches. This quiet respect shaped Rory's own identity as an actor and as a person. In looking back, Rory understood that his journey was connected to Scott's example, not in competition, but in shared purpose. Together, they reflected an era of Hollywood built on restraint, courage, and authenticity. Rory Calhoun's honesty allowed fans to see the human bond behind the cowboy myth. His story closed with gratitude, proving that true legacy lies not in rivalry, but in respect, memory, and the lessons carried forward.